Hello and welcome to my presentation on the Clotting Cascade and medications. My name is Nathaniel Raflor. I'm a paramedic student at Stony Brook University. Introduction and overview. As paramedics, we handle bleeding in many forms. In the field, we encounter trauma, strokes, or patients on blood thinners. Understanding this prevents complications like uncontrolled bleeding or missed interventions. The goals: understanding how the body naturally stops exsanguination. We'll cover how clotting works at a high level, where meds disrupt it, and how that guides our actions like transport choices. How can we support the body's inherent protocols, aka the clotting cascade? This presentation is designed as a simple explanation for anyone working in the medical field. The big picture overview: primary versus secondary hemostasis. Primary: platelet plug formation, the initial stop bleeding. This happens first. Platelets rush to the injury site, stick together, and form a temporary seal to stop immediate blood loss. Think of it as a quick bandage. Secondary: fibrin clot stabilization, or the long-term seal. This builds on the plug. It involves proteins creating a mesh to make the clot strong and lasting to prevent a bleed from reoccurring. Think of this as calling in the cavalry. The purpose is to prevent blood loss and maintain circulation. Overall, our goal is to stop the hemorrhage without blocking vessels entirely. The clotting cascade helps this by ensuring blood flow to the vital organs. Platelet plug versus stable clot. The platelet plug is a temporary, fragile aggregation. It's formed by platelets clumping. It's fast, but can break apart easily if not reinforced, and it's very vulnerable in high flow areas. A stable fibrin clot, reinforced mesh, is durable. It adds fibrin threads like a net, turning the plug into a solid barrier that holds up under pressure. The difference? The plug is quick but unstable. Clot adds strength via proteins. The plug buys time, seconds to minutes, but without the clot, it fails. The key is why some meds increase this bleed risk, or the key is understanding how some meds increase the bleed risk. The clotting cascade. This is a general overview. The cascade is a series of steps turning liquid blood into a gel clot. Like a chain reaction, one factor activates the next, amplifying the response to form a clot efficiently. There are two entry points: the extrinsic, which is fast, and intrinsic, which is slower. The extrinsic starts outside the vessels, intrinsic from the inside. Both lead to the same end but have different triggers. They converge at the common pathway for a stable clot. This is where it all goes down. The pathways merge to produce thrombin, which creates fibrin for a strong and stable clot. The extrinsic pathway, otherwise known as the tissue factor pathway. This pathway takes 30 to 60 seconds. Its trigger: tissue damage, exposing factors, i.e. trauma. The external injury releases tissue factor, kickstarting the process. It's common in cuts or in accidents. Why fast? It's direct activation. It's quick response to external injury. Fewer steps mean rapid clot initiation, ideal for stopping visible bleeding quickly and preventing outside intruders from getting in, i.e. infections. The outcome: it leads to the common pathway rapidly. It feeds into the final steps to stabilize the clot, which is essential for immediate hemostasis in emergencies. The intrinsic pathway, otherwise known as the contact activation pathway, takes typically 1 to 6 minutes. Its trigger is internal vessel damage or foreign surfaces, like IV lines. It's activated by contact with damaged endothelium or artificial surfaces like catheters. Why slower? It's got more steps, amplifies the response. It involves a cascade of factors for a bigger buildup, ensuring thorough clotting for internal issues. The outcome? It joins the common pathway for clot formation. It merges with the extrinsic to complete the process, useful in scenarios like vessel tears without external trauma as well, otherwise known as internal bleeds. Here I've made a little diagram to help explain the common pathway. This is where pathways meet. They activate thrombin, fibrinogen, and turn it into fibrin. Both extrinsic and intrinsic pathways converge here. Beginning as factor 10, it activates to factor 10A and combines with factor 5A to create prothrombin activator complex. This complex then goes around and activates thousands of prothrombin, converting them into thrombin, which convert fibrinogen into fibrin, which form fibrin strands. Fibrin strands fill the wound, interlacing the platelet plug to form a strong fibrin mesh, or as we know it, a clot. Meds targeting the common pathway cause major bleeding risks, and this is important to remember. Aspirin, medications, aspirin and Plavix. I'm not going to try to pronounce that one again. Aspirin and Plavix. Aspirin blocks platelet aggregation in primary hemostasis. It irreversibly inhibits the COX enzyme, which is necessary to get to the TXA enzyme, preventing platelets from sticking, and it lasts for the platelets' entire lifespan, which is 7 to 10 days. So it's important to remember that this is permanent. You're not going to be able to change back those platelets. Plavix inhibits platelet activation. It blocks adenosine diphosphate or ADP receptors, stopping platelet shape change and clumping. It's often used in post-stent or heart attack operations. Failure is a weak plug with increased bleeding risk. There's no strong initial seal, leading to prolonged oozing from wounds. Pre-hospital risk, prolonged bleeding and trauma. In a car crash, these patients may bleed more from minor cuts, so apply pressure longer and monitor closely. Warfarin or Coumadin. It acts on the extrinsic common pathway. Remember what I said earlier about drugs that act on the common pathway. It affects the vitamin, it's a vitamin K antagonist. It blocks vitamin K dependent factors 2, 7, 9, and 10, slowing the cascade. And that's in both the extrinsic and intrinsic and common pathway. So it's going to really slow down everything by blocking those factors. Failure, reduce clotting factors with no stable clot. This delays thrombin production, preventing fibrin mesh formation. So bad news. Pre-hospital risk, higher bleed out in injuries. Elderly on warfarin with a fall, suspect a head bleed. In-hospital docs sometimes use the International Normalized Ratio, or INR, to help identify high urgent reversals must be considered. Heparin, intrinsic common pathway, acts on the intrinsic common pathway. Again, another major drug that's going to affect the patient's ability to clot. It enhances antithrombin, which is a very important thrombin. We want prothrombin to form in the we want prothrombin to take the place, but it basically takes its place during the common pathway cascade and prevents it from being activated, creating thrombin, which create the which affect the fibrinogen, which convert them into fibrin. So it's gonna mess all sorts of things up. But anywho, yeah, it binds to antithrombin to inhibit thrombin in factor 10A, halting progression. Failure inhibits thrombin and prevents fibrin formation. It stops the conversion to fibrin, leaving only a fragile platelet plug. So you don't get those fibrin strands, you don't get that fibrin mesh. Pre-hospital risk, bleeding complications during transport. Avoid additional punctures. So if you have to work on someone, you have to get that access, you can do it. Try to use the smallest needle possible, but if it's not necessary, it's best to avoid. Direct oral anticoagulants, or DOACs, like Eliquis and Xarelto. These block single factor 10A in the clotting cascade. Now that's the start of the common pathway, so blocking that's going to have a major effect. This acts on the common pathway. Direct thrombin factor 10A inhibitors directly blocks key enzymes like 10A with Xarelto or thrombin. The failure, it blocks the final clot stabilization, prevents fibrin creation so clots don't hold. Pre-hospital risk, uncontrolled hemorrhage, and no easy reversal. In GI bleed scenarios, rapid transport to a facility with reversal agents like Indexa is crucial. Medications TPA, or tissue plasminogen activators. Plasminogen is a naturally occurring protein in the body that's also manufactured as a medication for emergency use. It acts on fibrinolysis, which breaks down clots, activates plasminogen to plasmin, which dissolves fibrin clots. The failure, it's dissolving existing clots, breaks apart formed clots, reopening vessels, and causing a returning bleed. So all that work we put in to try to stop them from bleeding, they've got TPA in their system. Good luck. Pre-hospital risk, re-bleeding in strokes, monitor for complications. If a patient is on TPA for a stroke, they're already in the hospital. You will never encounter someone self-administering or having TPA at home. Always assume any mention of TPA in the field means recent hospital administration. Monitor closely for bleeding and transport urgently. Key decisions and why it's relevant to paramedics. Trauma activation. Anticoagulants may warrant higher level activations, for example, massive transfusion protocols. Uh, Patients on DOACs in a motor vehicle collision activate a level 1 trauma for blood product readiness. Stroke alerts, TPA candidates need rapid transport. Check the medical history. Fast positive, end on aspirin, alert stroke centers, time is brain. Aim for door to needle under 60 minutes. Airway/IV, caution with bleeds. Avoid unnecessary sticks. Heparin patient, use the smallest gauge possible. Secure the airway without causing more trauma. That means no tubes, unless you have to. And I mean have to. Paramedic relevance, transport, and example. Priority destination, faster to trauma center for warfarin patients. Elevated risks mean bypass closer hospitals for specialized care. Example, elderly fall on Coumadin. Suspect internal bleed, activate trauma, monitor vitals en route. 80-year-old trips, head injury on warfarin, assume subdural hematoma. Lights and sirens to the trauma center, but serial neuro checks to determine any trend. And that's in the ambulance. We're not going to be waiting back at the house, sitting around trying to determine, do extra checks here and there. We got to get them somewhere urgently. So just to recap, clotting has its pathways. Meds hit specific spots. This helps guide our urgency and choices. Key takeaways, quick assessments of meds can save lives. Always ask about blood thinners. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation. Hope you have a great day. There's my references. Oh, by the way, uh, the final reference on there from ICU Advantage, awesome. I highly recommend watching it if you want some good detail on how to really understand the clotting cascade.